Hi everybody, this is Amanda Birkenbein. I have been doing a lot of research on learning differences and preferences between my boy and my girl students. What brought me to research this was the assumption that my boys like to learn the traditional way of math and my girls like to learn through visual methods. It seemed to me that my students were kind of split that way and preferred to learn that way. Through my research, I've learned a couple different things. I've looked at different experts. I have done some research online. I've done research through books, through journals, and these are my findings. My three main points today are there's innate biological differences in boys' and girls' brains. My second main point would be that there are unbiased instructional strategies that teachers can use that appeal to both boys and girls in your classroom. And the last thing I'll talk about is social factors that affect math development of males and females, why males do better on tests than females. So my point number one is there are innate brain differences. From the research that I did, boys learn better in competitive situations, where girls learn better in cooperative, whole group learning communities where they get to talk. And it seems that girls are more empathetic in their brain. They have a larger frontal cortex, which is responsible for empathy, while boys are a little bit more logical in their thinking. Females of all ages outperform males on tests requiring the recognition of emotion or relationships among other people. So they're really good at seeing how interactions work. But the assumption that these differences are hardwired isn't necessarily true, given all we know about the malleability of the brain. So that means that there is experiences that affect the hardwired brain from our genetics. So experiences change our brains. Brains are shaped more by experience than their biological gender. Brains must be molded, at least by some level, by experiences as boy or girl. Boys are better in competitive situations, where girls learn better in cooperative learning communities. So one of the experts that I researched was Elizabeth Fenema, and she has specialized in teaching math and has received multiple awards for her contributions to women in education. She and her colleagues have spent over 25 years researching the interactions of females inside math classrooms. She was able to gather research on attitudes of females towards math, and based on this research, Fenema and her associates developed a method of teaching math to help girls perform better, called cognitively guided instruction, or CGI. And this method promotes deeper thinking and reasoning, debating. Because this type of mathematical program used in the CGI classrooms was based on teachers having the freedom to make instructional decisions, the teacher's stereotypical beliefs about gender and math could have led them to interact differently with boys and girls, and that in turn led to the differences found in math scores. Through her research, Fenema found that girls have a more positive attitude when it comes to math, but that boys around them may have a negative attitude about girls participating in math. So how can we use her 25 years of knowledge through research and make our classrooms more gender neutral and therefore more useful to all students? Fenema's results showed that girls tended to use more overt taught strategies, while the same-aged boys used made-up or mental strategies. The mental processing of boys and girls were different, and boys did particularly better with extension tasks and questions. She saw that towards the end of third grade that girls generally used more standard algorithms than boys. So how can we get girls to do this more? Because we know that on test scores that males outperform females and that there are more males in the math careers than women. So there are a few strategies that teachers can use in their classroom to help level the playing field between innate learning preferences and each gender. These are ideas that I discovered while taking a class from a colleague in my district, so I don't claim these as my own. There were many different strategies that he had used in the class that he taught. The first I want to talk about is carousel seating. This is a strategy that can be used when you want all students to participate in answering a question or explaining their thinking. There's lots of different ways to use this. It's a very flexible strategy that can be used for many subjects, not just math in middle schools. You have an inner group of students in a circle facing out, and then an outer group of students facing each of the students on the inside, and this naturally pairs students. And you can have them rotate to different partners and can ask them to do the same thing of explaining or answering a question, or you can prepare questions that spiral in difficulty or depth. I like this strategy because it forces your students to be engaged and to have an opinion and to be involved, and that kind of plays into what girls tend to like, which is cooperative learning and explaining. Another strategy that can be used to accommodate learning for both boys and girls in your classroom is a two-variable chart. Again, another idea that I got from a colleague who taught this to me. An example is given by using the Pythagorean theorem on the x-axis and solving missing angles and lengths of a triangle on the y-axis. And each day of your lesson, you can have students place a sticker where they think they are in their learning, closer to the tops of the right or on the top of the paper will show their pro knowledge and expert knowledge of that concept, but you can measure two concepts at once. You can use those cheap star stickers and have them do different colors each day if you'd like. Refer back to this often, daily if you'd like, every other day, and have students look at their own progress and understanding. This is a great way for you to measure learning and therefore tweak according to the needs of your class without having to assess each student or embarrass students by calling on them to kind of get a vibe of what your whole class is doing. Another reason I like this is because it's kind of a quiet way of assessing, and it's not putting pressure on them so they feel like they can be honest with you. Another useful strategy that forces engagement from your students is a four-corner statement. You read the statement and then let students think about it before having them move to a corner in the room that's designated according to their level of agreement or disagreement with the statement. As you can see, agree, disagree, slightly agree, and slightly disagree on the page. Using words like always or never in the statement can help students be more polarized in their choices or make it a little bit more difficult for them to decide what they think. There are many variations of what you can do next based on what your goal is for their learning. You can have students discuss their reasoning in their group and then have them debate aloud as a class as you call on individuals to share their group's thinking. You could have students be paired with someone other than from their group to share their ideas with and explain. You can just be creative and fun in what strategies you want to use. Research proves that high-performing girls are outscored on standardized tests by high-performing boys. When it comes to low-performing boys and girls, the results were a little bit more inconsistent. Sometimes the girls outperformed, sometimes the boys outperformed. Some studies find that girls hold less positive attitudes towards math, they show less interest in math, and they receive less encouragement for engaging in math-related activities. What we need to do as teachers is to do some good public relations work for women in the mathematics field. If we expose our students to careers that are dominated by one sex, but have the opposite gender thriving in it, then our students will be more likely to choose what they're good at and not just what society says is culturally acceptable. When we bring in women who are engineers and men who are nurses, students will start to open up their eyes to the possibilities. Thanks for listening. I hope you learned something, and I hope you teachers are inspired to go out and make your classroom more creative so that your students are more involved. Thanks.